I'm your host, Scary Pops, and everybody loves a good scare. So let's get into it. Two young men in their 20s, Josh and Dan, went on a camping trip together in a desert in New Mexico. They didn't take much with them besides sleeping bags, food, and materials for a fire. And after they cooked their dinner, they fell asleep as they gazed up into the starry night sky. The beauty and the peace of the trip were short-lived, because the early morning hours, Josh was startled awake by what sounded like Dan's voice, but frantic. The voice said, "Come here, quick, look." Sleepy and confused, Josh got up to see what his friend was talking about. He heard it again, "Come here, quick, look." It sounded unnatural, a perfect repetition. Josh took a few steps forward and then someone grabbed him from behind. He turned around to see Dan with his finger in front of his mouth, warning Josh to keep quiet. They rolled up their sleeping bags and left. To this day, they don't know who or what was trying to lure Josh into the desert. Yuki was a stunningly beautiful young woman who was married to the samurai Kenzo, a petty man who only loved her for her head-turning looks. But another woman, Kieko, was madly in love with Kenzo, and out of jealous rage, she tricked Yuki into using a cream that was laced with poison. It disfigured her face, causing one of her eyes to droop and her hair to fall out without her even noticing. Disgusted with her new appearance, Kenzo wished to divorce her and marry Kieko. The despicable samurai hired his friend Akari to kill her so that he would have the grounds for a divorce. Kenzo was so shocked by Yuki's appearance, he couldn't follow through with the orders. Instead, he told Yuki of the plan and showed her own face in the mirror. Seeing her deformed face for the first time, she was horrified. So she stole a sword and she killed herself with her last breath, and she cursed Kenzo's name. On the night of Kenzo's remarriage to Kieko, the ghost of the disfigured Yuki appeared before him. A terrified and guilty Kenzo quickly fled, but no matter how far he ran, he couldn't escape her hauntings. After that night, no matter where Kieko looked, even in the very lanterns he used to light his path, he would see Yuki's face staring right back at him. In one of the last pictures, I'm running down the street. It's dark. The street lamps are dim and the light oozes down sickly yellow. I can feel my heart almost bursting in my chest, the taste of something sour and unpleasant in my mouth. I'm running as fast as I can. I've got to get away. The moon, it's a sickle moon, and its cheek is pockmarked with acne scars. It looks down on me. It hangs overhead like a malformed knife. They're running behind me and they're gaining. They're not even running hard. They spread out around me. They match their pace to mine easily without effort. Then they whisper my name. Ellie. Ellie. Just ahead is a rusty iron gate to the old playground. I used to play on the swings when I was a little girl. They crowd me here. I don't know if kids still use the swings. I stumble through the gate and into the playground. I just have to keep running. But I take a picture, and I can't help it. I take a picture, and it's just me and the gate and that moon. And no one behind me at all. Her name was Ellie. I didn't see much of her after they found her dead at the bottom of the old playground down my street one night. a few months ago. I didn't know her that well, but what was funny was that when I saw her, it was only for a moment before they zipped up the bag and took her away.
I'm 24, and I lived alone with my dog, Bear, in a cozy townhome up until 3 months ago. I moved in when I turned 22, having a decent enough job. I loved the home, being the first place I'd ever rented for myself. But 2 years of happy living was ruined by this one night. It was gloomy outside and raining quite a lot. It was my day off, so I was sitting on a chair in my living room, scrolling on my phone. It was 8 p.m., which was just an hour before I usually went to bed. Bear had been sitting by the back door for a while, looking outside. He started whining and ran up to me, which was his way of communicating to me that he needed to go outside. I got up and let him out, then closed the door and stood in the kitchen. While it was just a townhome, there was a small fence separating the backyards, so I didn't have to worry about Bear running away or anything. Also, I should mention that Bear isn't a large dog at all. He's just fluffy and small, like a teddy bear. Not long, maybe 15 or 20 seconds after I let him outside, I heard him whimper and bark. It was very clearly a cowering bark, like he was running away from something. It scared me, and I rushed to the door and looked out, seeing Bear running back towards me with his tail between his legs. Once he was inside, I leaned my head outside and scanned the backyard, expecting a coyote or something to be lurking by the fence, but nothing was there. I made sure Bear was okay, then locked up my door. He never does anything like that, so that made me really worried for him. I let him sit on my lap for the rest of the night. Through the next 30 minutes, he was constantly perking his head up and staring at the windows and doors, a different one each time. Then, after 45 minutes of sitting there, Bear turned his head and stared at the window behind me, lowering his ears and growling. "Bear," I said, turning to look where he was looking, and right in the window, just a couple feet from us, was a man staring back at me. He was almost right up against the glass. I jumped up and screamed. Stepping backwards, the man sprinted away down the side of the house. Bear started barking again from the sudden chaos. I closed the blinds and checked all of the others, making sure they were closed as well. From the quick glimpse I got, I didn't recognize the man. I didn't know who he was, or what he was doing here, or why he was staring at me. I tried to listen for any more indications that he was still around, but the rain outside was too loud, covering up any possible sounds. Bear seemed calmer though, so I stayed up for a while longer just to be safe, then went upstairs and had Bear sleep in my room with me. It took a long time for me to fall asleep, having a lot on my mind, but after an hour or so, I slowly dozed off. When I woke, Bear was standing up right by the bedroom door, staring at it. This was a freaky thing to see, waking up in the middle of the night. But not even seconds later, I heard something below me. A man talking. And not long after, a man on the other side of the house talking back. Their footsteps were loud, and they didn't even seem to be whispering either. It was like they didn't care if I knew that they were inside my home. My bedroom door was locked, but I had nowhere else to go. I went over to Bear quietly, trying to keep him calm, then picked him up and went over to the corner of my room, behind the bed. It took me a while to realize, but then it struck me that I hadn't heard any noises at all in the past minute. No steps or voices. This was when I took my phone out and called the police, whispering as softly as I could. As I told them my address, Bear started a low growl, then began barking and whining as two sets of footsteps started making their way up the stairs. I begged for the operator to send someone immediately. The two men started talking to each other again, but it was hard to make out their words. "Hey, we just want to talk. We're not here to hurt you." I screamed, saying I called the cops and for them to leave. I was panicking, not knowing what else to do. There was a pause afterwards. "We're here to help you," one of the men said. I didn't respond as I was busy trying to muffle my crying. "Open the door." It got quiet again. I could only hear them breathing behind the door for what felt like a whole minute before one of them walked back down the stairs. I couldn't tell where they went downstairs or if they'd left or not, but I was sure that it was just one set of footsteps that left the bedroom door. It was so quiet though, and I couldn't hear any breathing. In the far distance, the soft sound of sirens started to get louder. A sense of safety was finally coming back. Once the sirens got closer, I heard footsteps running out of the house downstairs, but now I was unsure of where the other man was. It seemed really unlikely for him to be by my door still, but I could swear I never heard him leave. I waited for the police to pull up and make their way inside. I heard them searching downstairs, then slowly make their way upstairs and knock on my door. I almost didn't want to answer, still thinking that other man had to be somewhere nearby. When I opened the door though, it was just an officer. I immediately told him about my concerns. He directed me out of the house as one of his partners continued searching, but nobody was found. The only thing they were able to find was watery footprints all around the house, as well as an unlocked window, which, to be honest, I wasn't sure if I kept locked or not. It terrified me though, feeling so confident that the other man was still there, never hearing him leave, but then there being no trace of him. It made it impossible to sleep at night, having this feeling of someone still in the house, watching me. I moved out 3 months ago. It was too much stress on my mind, having a loose end like that, especially since neither of them were ever identified or arrested. There was no clear intention the men had either, which is just another question added to the list of uncertainty. Even now, living miles away in a new apartment, I still sometimes feel like I'm not alone.